It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio.
All right, welcome to RealAg Radio right here on Rural Radio Channel 147. I'm your host for today's show, Kelvin Heppner. Sean Haney is still on holidays, and it's a very special edition of RealAg Radio today as we are on location from one of the best places in the world. I might be a bit biased, but we are at the ballpark today for the final stop in the 2023 InVigor Series, brought to you by BASF Canada. We are in downtown Winnipeg at Shaw Park, home of the Winnipeg Goldeyes, who are hosting the Kansas City Monarchs in an American Association independent professional baseball matchup tonight. So the InVigor Series was launched earlier this summer. It's a bunch of baseball games happening across Western Canada, bringing together baseball and farming, canola growers specifically. Earlier games were held in Lethbridge back in early July, a game between the Lethbridge Bulls and Moose Jaw. We had RealAg Radio on location for that game as well. There's also been a stop in the InVigor Series in Swift Current, a game between Swift Current and Brooks. Both of those Western Canadian Baseball League games. And tonight we get to watch this American Association matchup between Winnipeg and Kansas City. We're going to have some fun here on the broadcast as the players warm up, as fans arrive, talking farming and baseball. I think if you draw the Venn diagram, there's a fairly large overlap between farming and baseball in many ways when you look at the seasonality, the passion, the strategy that goes into planning and preparing for a farming season and a baseball season, always looking to be better, whether that's in the batter's box, on the pitcher's mound, or in the field, the farm field, also the outfield, trying new things, new approaches, figuring out how to navigate curveballs, the weather, markets, things that get thrown at us that are outside of our control. I think there's a lot of metaphors and comparisons that can be made between farming, agriculture, and of course baseball. It's also, of course, a big part of summer in a lot of rural and small town communities across North America and Canada and the U.S. Some great ball tournaments in small towns. So looking forward to celebrating the mix of both baseball and farming today as part of this on-location broadcast of RealAg Radio. Again, it's the InVigor Series brought to you by BASF Canada. And so on today's show, we're going to be joined by, I guess you could call this our starting lineup for the show today. It includes the Goldeyes' Dan Chase, who's going to stop by in just a few minutes. He's on deck talking about the franchise, the organization, the league, baseball here in Manitoba, and the history of the Goldeyes. They're actually celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. A bit later in the show, we'll be joined by Harold Brown of BASF, potentially some others from BASF as well, talking about, they're also celebrating an anniversary, the 10-year anniversary of BASF's pod shatter reduction trait. That'll be one of the topics we talk about, as well as the growing season and more stuff that's been learned this year, stuff that BASF is working on when it comes to their InVigor canola pipeline. And finally, we'll wrap up the show. The second half of the show, we'll bring in the closers, the heavy arms, the big arms from the bullpen. We're looking to line up a panel of farmers from the crowd attending the game here as well. We'll talk about how harvest is shaping up, what this year's been like, what they're looking forward to, and much more. Once again, on location today from Shaw Park in downtown Winnipeg, what used to be called kind of Chicago of the North, this area. There's a huge history to Canada's grain trade within blocks of the stadium here, and we'll touch on that if we have time today as well, just some of the historic buildings that we can see from the ballpark here in downtown Winnipeg, some of that history that we like to talk about as well, or at least I like to talk about. So with that, thanks to BASF Canada for having us out today for the InVigor Series. Standing by, we are going to chat with Dan Chase of the Winnipeg Goldeyes. You're listening to RealAg Radio right here on Rural Radio Channel 147.
This is the sound of a farmer with a clear view of their fields and finances.
As is this.
And this.
Crop planning, profit reports,
budget, cash flow, statements, all laid out clearly with Ag Expert. To view from inside the combine or in the field, projecting what's next. Get valuable perspective anywhere you are. Ag Expert, farm management software built for Canadian farms. Visit agexpert.ca to get started today.
What were the issues in your fields this year? Did you do a soil sample? What is your soil sample telling you about some of the nutrient issues that you might be having going into next year? What herbicides did you use? What residues you might be concerned about? What weed issues did you have? What crop residues did you have? How well do you know your fields?
Get the answers to all the questions you have about your pulse crop at the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com.
Introducing the all-new Xerion 12 Series tractor by Kloss. Redesigned from the ground up to redefine the high-capacity four-wheel drive market. With 653 max horsepower, industry-leading hydraulic flow, a silky smooth CVT, a powerful TerraTrack undercarriage, and a quiet, comfortable cab with 20% more legroom. More than just power. The all-new Xerion by Kloss.
It's a beautiful night for ball here in downtown Winnipeg. You're listening to RealAg Radio right here on Rural Radio Channel 147. I'm your guest host this afternoon, Kelvin Heppner. We are taping today's show. It's Saturday night. The Winnipeg Goldeyes are hosting the Kansas City Monarchs, and we're pleased to be joined now by a member of the Winnipeg Goldeyes front office. Dan Chase is the Director of Sales and Marketing with the Goldeyes. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with us leading up to this, what we're looking forward to being a good game here tonight, Dan.
Thank you, Kelvin. It's great to be here. Well, I'm always here, but thanks for having me on.
Well, speaking of that, how long have you worked with the Goldeyes? How long have you been here?
Well, this is my 24th season with the team, and it just is fun every year. You know, we just keep going on and getting more fun aspects of the game and just entertaining people. I enjoy every minute of it.
So 24 years. The franchise itself here in Winnipeg, the Goldeyes, is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, right?
That is correct, and we started way back in 1994 at Old Winnipeg Stadium in the North End, and moved to Shaw Park, now as it's called, in 1999 for the Pan Am Games, and have been here ever since.
So what, for our listeners, so we have an audience across Canada involved in agriculture, as well as a good portion of audience across the U.S. as well, farming parts of the U.S., which the American Association, your league footprint actually would overlap with a lot of our audience down into the States as well. Why don't you tell us a bit about the American Association and the league that the Goldeyes currently play in?
Sure. It's a 12-team league, and we are the only Canadian franchise in the American Association. Previously, we were in the Northern League, but we came to the American Association back in 2011. And in 2012, we won our first championship. And since then, we've won two other championships in 2016 and 17, back-to-back. And it's a great league, solid franchises, good attendance, and it's a well-run league, and we're just really pleased to be a part of it.
And this would be considered independent professional baseball?
That is exactly right. And our players are here either trying to get to an affiliated team or trying to enjoy the fact that they just love the game and they keep wanting to play, so we're happy to have them.
So what does a game day look like for you behind the scenes here, Dan?
Well, we get in pretty early in the morning, getting our preparations for all the various promotions and partnerships and making sure that that's all together, making sure that the concessions and our EMS staff is prepared and security is all good and the ballpark is clean and ready to go. And it's a long day, 12, 14-hour days, but I tell you what, the pitch clock that we have with this league and all through the major leagues has really made a difference to the quality of the entertainment. The games are better, they're faster, they're cleaner, and it's really a good thing for us.
So it's made a noticeable difference at this level as well?
Absolutely. A typical 3.5-hour game last year is now 2.5, and that makes a big difference to folks, especially with the young ones, if they're coming out in June and they may still be in school. And we start at 6:30 and 6 o'clock on a Saturday. So people are here. And I tell you what, in July when you're driving home and the sun hasn't set yet, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. You mentioned the partnerships and part of your role being working with game day partners. InVigor today would be an example of that.
Yes, absolutely, and it's the first time that we have had the opportunity to partner, and it's been a great flow right to this point. And I tell you what, the ballpark looks fantastic, and the folks are excited, and the brand looks fantastic, and we're really glad to be here.
Yeah, for those listening, there are bright yellow, canola yellow colored signs around the ballpark, and that's the other thing. Shaw Park is a gem. This ballpark is one of it's just beautiful to start off with. Downtown Winnipeg, you have the unique museum, just the Canadian Human Rights Museum, and the Forks just down the road. And I mentioned it earlier, there's a lot of history surrounding Canada's grain trade. Businesses that are located downtown here, down just within a few blocks, the Canadian Grain Commission, the Canadian Wheat Board offices, our former Wheat Board offices are just down the road. The trading floor here in Winnipeg, when there was one, was just down the road as well. So, yeah, certainly the ballpark itself, for those who haven't been to Winnipeg, this is a gem, this ballpark.
We're really pleased about it. We've learned over the past few years about the fact that people want different experiences, so we've been building and creating new aspects, patios, our craft beer corner, which provides only Manitoba craft beer products. We're very, very conscious of trying to support Manitoba and its businesses, and it's really important to us. And we've got some new things coming up for next season, including a whole different patio deck scenario. So it's just a real beautiful ballpark, not a bad seat in the house, and a great experience.
Yeah. You mentioned the record before, 3 championships in the last decade or so. This year has been a bit more of a challenge for the franchise?
It has. We went through a field manager change. We've got a great guy that's running the team and doing a great job. Different players, the mixes here. Really strong team as far as making the effort and never giving up and doing the best. And we're just out of a playoff position now, and hopefully we can put together a run to end the season, and who knows, you never know what happens in the playoffs.
No, this is your second last home game, and then you have a short road trip. How many games do you have left at this point?
So that'll be 9, I believe, 9 or 10. Yeah.
Okay, so you have some ground to make up.
Yeah.
You mentioned the new manager, Greg Taggart, new this year. This franchise has only had a handful of managers over those 30 years. A lot of them have stuck around for a long time, and some of our audience, if anybody's listening from in Indiana, they may actually know Taggart from he spent a fair bit of time down in Gary, right?
He did indeed, and he did a great job there. Won a championship, or I'll give him 1, maybe 2. I don't have the stats with me, but Greg's a wonderful manager, and this team has come a long way from the beginning. It takes time to gel, and these guys are working hard for each other, so we're pleased with the way they're playing right now.
All right. You mentioned you've been here 24 years with the franchise, so you would have been around, Dan, or in the early days, 1999, I believe there was a Field of Dreams tradition started here in an event where there was a reenactment of course, everybody's familiar with the movie and the ball players walking out of the corn in the outfield. Tell us a bit about that initiative, and I'm going to connect some dots here for some of our audience, because a well-known farm broadcaster here in Manitoba was actually part of that back in the day. But why don't you take us back to 1999 when that tradition started?
Well, it was called Turn Back the Clock Night is what it was, and we turned back the clock to the 60s, and we had the dress and the band and the music and the whole flair. But the real thing that was neat is that we would source a cornfield, essentially, and build it into the ballpark at one of our gates, and we would have the team wearing the vintage uniforms. And I can still remember Hal Lanier leading the team through this maze of corn and tipping his hat to the crowd, just like in the movie. It was awesome, and the players loved those vintage uniforms, and it was a great experience, and we carried that on for quite a few years.
I'm not sure how much of a hand he had in it, but I'm pretty sure he was one of the people who came up with the idea. It was Les Kletke, who was a well-known farm broadcaster, reporter, author. I think some of our audience will recognize Les's name as a bit of a throwback to his ag media work, but Les had a hand in that as well, I believe, right?
Yes, and what was interesting about it is that we always wanted to schedule the game in July, but we couldn't because the corn
wasn't ready.
So we had to wait and always schedule it in late August when we could have a good presentation.
I was thinking, what if you tried it with canola?
Hey.
Maybe if this happens again next year, canola in the outfield. You might have to work on the timing, though, because canola is well past its yellow flowering stage in this part of the world right now. But you could try canola in the outfield, maybe.
I am in for that. I think that's a great idea.
I think it would, that would be a real Western Canadian version of the Field of interpretation of what happened in Field of Dreams. And, I think that'd be cool. What's your prediction for tonight then, Dan, as matchup here against Kansas City again?
I tell you what, Kansas City's a real tough ball club. We're playing hard right now. Last night we went 13 innings with them, and if we could have gotten a break or two, we would have won that game, but we lost 2-1 in 13. So we've got to pitch hard to start and make contact and play well to beat this team.
Okay, what has been the Goldeyes' strength this year? It's been hitting, right? Or where would you say things have gone well and not been the reason that you are not in a playoff position right now?
Yeah, we've progressed along the season as it goes along. We've had some really good pitching. Our hitting, we're not a home run hitting team. We're put the bat to the ball, steal some bases, play smart defense, and that's what we've been doing. So it's been good. We'd like to see a few more fly out of the ballpark. Everybody does, but I think we've got a solid team that way and something to build on for the future.
Okay. Well, we have a bit of a breeze here. The wind, maybe it's blowing in, maybe blowing the wrong direction. Where is it going today?
We're coming from the south today. That's a beautiful breeze, that's for sure.
It'll be nice for the fans in the stands. I do want to, we as part of this broadcast today, Dan, we're also kind of drawing some parallels between farming and baseball. And, of course, seasonality is a big part of it. Farmers spend their winter planning and strategizing and figuring out a plan for the new season, which starts in spring and lines up with baseball season, of course. What does that look like from your role in working in the front office of a baseball franchise in the off-season, the so-called off-season? In farming, sometimes grain farmers get bugged, like, what do you do in winter? And I'm sure it's the same thing with you. What do you do in winter, Dan?
Yeah, no, we just sit around and have naps.
Yeah.
No, we're busy. As soon as the season ends, we're busy dealing with our partners and making sure that they're happy with what we're putting together for them and getting ready to go. And, of course, farming and baseball is really the same season exactly. We start in May, and that's the seeding time, and then we go right through to the end of the year and hope for a big harvest, and that being a championship. So we have that mix. And what's interesting about baseball to me is that it's really started on radio. And it's a game that you can just close your eyes and imagine, seeing the grass and the players, and it's just a comfortable thing. So I think we're blessed with a lot of support from the farming communities, and that's west, Brandon, Portage, Prairie, and of course in the southern part and of the province, and really all over. So we're very, very pleased to have that kind of support.
Yeah, and I do think it lends itself. That's one of the reasons why I think so many farmers are baseball fans, because we spend time in the tractor cab in summer listening to the radio, listening to that ball game on the radio. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we're pleased to have that support.
Yeah. Well, the band is starting here, Dan, and that means you probably have work to do here shortly. So one final question. I'm going to ask this of all our guests on the show today. What's your favorite ballpark food or snack? What's the go-to?
The go-to for me is, well, I'm biased, obviously. You've got to have a hot dog. And in this particular park, we have what's called the Goldey dog. And it has just got everything you could possibly want on it, and is delicious. But you know what? Our concessions are all across the board, from clay oven, from the Indian food to the pizza to the local pierogies. It's just all across, and it's a blend. But give me a hot dog, give me a pop, and away we go.
I think I'm in the same camp.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us to chat today, Dan, and all the best with the rest of the season as you chase that harvest and that playoff appearance, hopefully.
Thank you, Kelvin. Appreciate it.
Again, that's Dan Chase of the Winnipeg Goldeyes joining us here on RealAg Radio. We're on location as part of the InVigor Series, the 2023 InVigor Series, brought to you by BASF Canada. We're going to be joined by Harold Brown of BASF in just a moment. He's up on deck You're listening to RealAg Radio. We'll be back right after this.
Did you know that Pioneer now has a full lineup of Enlist E3 soybeans? Take a look at Pioneer brand Enlist E3 soybeans for the highest yield potential and for the best agronomic package and herbicide trait options. From the lab to the field, Pioneer brand Enlist E3 soybeans are the best in beans, period. Ask your local Pioneer representative about Enlist E3 beans.
You know, there's a reason we call it the Corn School. Videos on everything from planter setup, weed control, field trial results, yield strategies, and so much more. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com has the information and advice you need to help you succeed. Brought to you by Pride Seeds and BASF, Corn School episodes are available at cornschool.com, from RealAgriculture.com, or as a podcast from your favorite streaming service. Download the latest podcast today.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin, host of the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com. Throughout the year, on the Soybean School, we'll bring you timely agronomic video content from planting to harvest, from the latest agronomic research to the latest in production technology. Check out our massive video library on YouTube, RealAgriculture.com, or download the audio podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts. The Soybean School is brought to you by Pride Seeds, BASF, and Syngenta Canada.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. The band is humming and players are warming up. The ball game is, crowd is funneling in here, including a whole bunch of farmers taking part in the InVigor Series game today at the Winnipeg Goldeyes, hosting the Kansas City Monarchs here in this American Association matchup here in downtown Winnipeg, Manitoba. Pleased to be joined now by BASF Technical Services Specialist here in Manitoba, Harold Brown. Harold, welcome to the ballpark.
Well, thank you, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
It all of a sudden has really livened up.
Yeah, exactly. There's energy in the air here, and people excited about baseball.
Yeah, that's right.
And that includes some farmers, and I think it's cool because there's such an overlap between farming and baseball, and there's so many different angles. We talked about some of them already, the seasonality of baseball season and farming season and preparing for it and making adjustments on the fly. But yeah, just, of course, baseball is deeply connected with rural communities and a lot of your customers in Western Canada as well.
Yeah, that is true. You know, many of them play on, local teams and, just for fun. Yeah. Right from kids to as adults.
Yeah, certainly a lot of farm kids still playing ball, and I remember when I used to play baseball, there was a certain characteristic about a farm kid when they played ball that stood out, and I'm not sure if farm kids today still have that, but it's just fun to have those circles overlap and bring together a crowd like this, and looking forward to watching the game tonight with InVigor customers, and a good part of your InVigor team, or BASF team, is out here as well.
That's right. Yeah, we have quite a few of our team here, and it is great to have our customers come out on a beautiful evening. It's, like I said, the seasons overlap, and it's harvest time, and some of them are able to come in and join us. And this is the run-up to the playoffs for the Goldeyes, too, so it's exciting.
Yeah, playoffs for farmers and playoffs for the professional baseball players as well that are hanging around. Actually, some of the bullpen members are signing autographs right in front of us here. So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us a bit about what you do with BASF, Harold, in terms of your role. I know you and I sometimes have spent time driving around the countryside. I don't think we got the chance to this summer, but last year in terms of filming school videos for Real Agriculture as part of BASF's partnership with our agronomic schools. What else do you do in your role with BASF?
My job is a technical service specialist, so I do fairly wide-ranging things, from supporting our sales staff for any technical issues that come up, training for whether it's their staff or customers, retails, etc., industry people. And a lot of what I find the fun part is the troubleshooting in the summertime, looking at, what issues growers are having and help make some recommendations for some of those tougher questions they might have.
So 2023 growing season, what's fresh on your mind in terms of some of those issues and some of the questions that you're getting from your team and also from growers?
Yeah, this has been a real interesting season. It's you look at the environment we've had across Western Canada, it's been all different. And in southern Manitoba, where I work mostly, we had summertime in the spring, and then the summer was cool, and now we're heading into harvest, and it's been kind of showery. So it's made for lots of different challenges, but this, I think, we've got a better than expected crop in some areas, even though it's been so dry. But some variable stands. So there's questions coming in as we're getting to harvest, if they're thinking about, timing of those pre-harvest burn-off herbicides for timing, because they've got variable stands. So those are probably the most common ones now, pre-harvest treatments, and also preparing for harvest as well.
That's one that I know on our farm we've been humming and hawing. Do we leave it to straight cut, or do we try swathing it this year, given maybe some variability that is out there? But certainly something like the pod shatter reduction trait that BASF has been a major tool in Western Canada in helping growers maybe move away from spending time in the swather, although that option is still there.
That's right. It's the pod shatter reduction trait was something I was really excited to be a part of helping bring to the market. It kind of shows a bit of my age, maybe, when
it's only been around. It's only 10 years. It's the 10-year anniversary next year, right?
So that's great.
Yeah.
So
10 years fly by just like that.
It flies by like that, and I have some great memories of L140P launching that product, and really the flexibility that it allowed for growers, and the excitement that they had that they could just let it stand out there and then swath as they saw fit, or harvest, let it stand and mature and not worry about the variability as much. So it's great, a great new tool, and it's really took the market by storm, really.
Yeah, and it maybe even allows some farmers to attend a ball game on a late August evening instead of spending time in the swather.
That's right. But it does still allow that possibility to swath, and some guys like swathing some of their canola or leave some stand to ripen naturally, and it gives that flexibility. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Once again, we're joined by Harold Brown of BASF. We're on location as part of the InVigor Series game here at the Winnipeg Goldeyes Stadium. They're hosting the Kansas City Monarchs, and we are on location here on RealAg Radio. Harold, when it comes to what's coming down the pipe from InVigor and BASF, what should growers be looking forward to? Speaking of pod shatter reduction, I understand next year the entire InVigor lineup is going to have that pod shatter reduction trait?
Yeah, all our 300 series, all the new products that have been launched here now are pod shatter reduction trait. So, across, and we have a strong portfolio. I think there's like 11 different hybrids that we offer, so it gives, a different product for whatever a grower is looking for. So lots of possibilities there, and built-in disease resistance packages too that they're looking for.
Okay.
And, as we move forward, what's new and exciting, we have a brand new InVigor Health hybrid this year that we've launched. So the L358 HPC. So that's our newest one, as well as L350 PC. That's the highest yielding InVigor hybrid we've had in the breeding trials yet to date. So it was nice to have that in. I do the demonstration strip trial program, so we've got it in that program. Both those hybrids looking really strong all season. So looking forward to getting in there and get some harvest done and see how the yields look.
The research side of things, harvest needs to happen as well here in the coming weeks.
That's right. I'm lucky to be here tonight. I might have been out harvesting a trial. It was that close that we almost did, but things are just a little bit too tough yet.
Okay, well, and it has the pod shatter trait. It should be good till Monday, right?
It should be good till Monday. That's right.
Or whenever it's ready. You mentioned disease packages. We are hearing the word verticillium more frequently when we talk about canola, at least on the eastern side of the prairies. I know it is in other provinces as well. Where are we at in terms of understanding that disease and how we're going to manage it with genetics?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And there's a lot of research that has been going on and is ongoing. has been ongoing as we...
There's some fans here. It's awesome.
Yeah, we have a cheering section here. And they're cheering on the development of some tolerance to verticillium. So I know we've been screening hybrids, and we're still in a stage of really understanding that disease. It's really elusive too. It confuses. It looks like multiple other diseases. So really identifying what it is and how it develops in the plant and conditions that favor its development or not. So those are all being worked on now, and hopefully we'll have in the fairly near future some hybrids that have some tolerance to that disease.
When do you expect to get your research data together in terms of harvest results this year? You mentioned looking forward to having some of that yield data in hand. What's the time for that, Harold?
Yeah, it's as we look at timelines for harvest, there's already some of our strip trials off in Alberta, southern Alberta. They just came off. So it's usually a week or two before we get these first ones together and get up on the website. Probably by the middle of September, we should have a good number started to put up on that website. And the InVigorResults.ca website is really comprehensive. So I think it's a great place for our customers to look to see how they've performed in their region. We share a lot of information, not just yields, but also how they perform in the field, standability, and there's agronomic comments from us, my colleagues, what they saw throughout the season. There's some weather information that you can now see how the season looked, and so a wealth of knowledge, and you can summarize and roll up that information right there for your specific area. So, initially there's only a few trials, but as it builds throughout the season, you get a strong number of trials, whether it's our own, the group I work with, demonstration strip trials. We also have agronomic excellence trials in there too. So it adds up to 100 of ours, 30 to 40 of the agronomic excellence sites. So it's a lot of locations. So there's usually a site pretty close to wherever our customers are. They want to look to see how the product performs.
Yeah, a lot of data to go through as growers are also moving into that decision time, what we're going to grow next year. Mm-hmm. This is that time of year where we're already looking ahead to then.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it always surprises me how soon we're starting to talk about selling seed for next season. So, yeah, it's right upon us.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to ask you the final question then, Harold, that I'm asking all the guests on the show today, and that is, what's your favorite ballpark food or snack item? What's the thing that you got to have when you go to a Goldeyes game here at Shaw Park, or maybe just a game in your local town?
Yeah, that's a great question, and maybe most people would talk about a hot dog or something like that, or the mini donuts, but they have Danny's Whole Hog here.
Yes.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Pulled pork sandwich.
Yes.
And that's something that's really, a southern Manitoba treat. So that's one thing I like getting here.
Cool.
The Goldeyes Park has lots of different items, so you get to try some different things.
Yeah, and Danny's Whole Hog has actually a really interesting backstory. Danny Kleinsasser, a farmer here in southern Manitoba, went direct to market during one of those periods where the hog industry was suffering, I believe. He started Danny's Whole Hog and has certainly built himself a massive brand and following, like you said, and serves delicious pulled pork at the ballpark and many other places.
Right at the ballpark.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, I'll let you move on into the park here and enjoy the rest of the day here at the Goldeyes game, Harold, as we're waiting for the game to begin, and looking forward to enjoying some of that ballpark fare on the concourse. Thanks for taking the time to stop by here on RealAg Radio, Harold.
Yep, thanks. Great talking to you.
Again, that's Harold Brown. He is with BASF. Of course, BASF hosting the InVigor Series here at the Winnipeg Goldeyes Stadium. They're playing the Kansas City Monarchs, and we're looking forward to our next up. We're bringing in did we call them the bullpen before, or were they the cleanup hitters? I'm not sure. It's our farmer panel is coming up. You're listening to RealAg Radio right here on Rural Radio, channel 147.
Does your N stabilizer contain an active ingredient load high enough to be agronomically effective? If not, it could be costing you time and money. If you're putting down a nitrogen stabilizer, put your trust in Koch Agronomic Services. Solutions like Super U, Tribune, and Anvil. Each delivers high active ingredient concentrations that low-rate products just can't match. Compare how imitator products stack up to agronomically effective solutions at defendyourn.ca.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Sean Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on SiriusXM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. The band is still rocking on location at the InVigor Series, Winnipeg Goldeyes versus Kansas City Monarchs matchup here in downtown Winnipeg. I'm Kelvin Heppner, hosting today's show as Sean Haney is on holidays. We're pleased to be joined now by Manitoba farmer Rob Brunel. Rob, St. Rose, is that where you call home?
That's right, Kelvin, St. Rose.
So St. Rose, where's that from Winnipeg in terms of getting to a ball game here on a Saturday night?
We are 3 hours northwest of here.
Cool. So you mentioned a rain delay. Do you have some crop in the bin already?
Yeah, we are about halfway through wheat, and we're about 20-25% done harvest with our ryegrass and grass seeds and fall rye in the bin. So, yeah, we've been sitting for about a week now.
Okay. I keep talking about Manitoba being dry. Are you dry in your area?
We've been, struggling for moisture all season.
Okay.
Up until last week, but now we're sitting nice going into the fall for sure.
Okay. So in terms of normal or average precipitation for a growing season, where would you be? 50%, 80%?
Yeah, probably somewhere around 50 to 70%. It's very variable. I mean, I think we've seen that everywhere. It's like, 1 mile caught a shower and the next mile has nothing. So that's kind of been the story of the season.
So in terms of what you have been able to take off, early doesn't always mean that it's the best stuff. If it ripened prematurely, or what's it looking like in terms of on the yield monitor and what's in the bin?
Our wheat's been probably average, or
nice.
good average. So very surprised, very kind of pleased, and our grass seeds were all over the map as well, but I would say average to just below average. So far things are looking, pretty good.
Okay. You mentioned grass seed and production there. What's that market like right now, or what's the reason that Rob Brunel grows grass seed?
We're on our 25th year of growing perennial ryegrass. It's become a staple in our rotation. Allows early harvest. Usually enjoys higher moisture, so it kind of gets us started off at the end of July in harvest and rolling in. Prices kind of follow grain prices, so they are coming off their peak, but still very much higher than what we've seen over the last 25 years.
And your region, it would be a conducive region for growing forage product or ryegrass production like that?
Yeah, grass seed is kind of very common in the area. I think some of it's been the sales reps that have been there, from the area, kind of just got their customer base, and it's become just a normal part of our daily or annual rotation.
Okay. what's next after you mentioned you're partway through wheat and still working on ryegrass? What's next in terms of on the list? Is canola next?
Yeah, so after wheat, we'll have our InVigor canola.
There you go.
InVigor Series baseball night. Yeah, that'll be next, and soybeans, and then our grain corn.
Okay. So we were just talking about this. Next year is the 10-year anniversary of the pod shatter reduction trait in BASF canola varieties. What's your response in terms of that big question that we've been talking about over the last 10 years? Do you still swath or do you straight cut? Where are you at on that?
Yeah, we've been straight cutting since we switched to all pod shatter. We still have a swather. We may use it in certain places, but really, yeah, we're straight cutting canola all the time now.
Where possible, you straight cut?
You bet, yeah.
Okay. So then you would understand then how significant it is to have what that trait, the impact that it's had on Western Canada. I'm reminded of that sometimes. Like that trait in the last 10 years has got to be one of the bigger developments or changes in farming practices.
I would say, because on a normal year before pod shatter, rain delay would mean all we'd be doing is cutting canola.
You'd be swathing canola tonight. Yeah.
So it's really freed up some time, as a great management practice, but it really freed up some time during harvest, so manpower has become less of an issue. We don't need someone swathing, or, you maybe sleep at night instead of swathing all the time.
Yeah. And is there a yield benefit, or do you think there's a yield benefit in letting the crop stay in the field a little longer, or grow a little longer?
I think on the years that we jump the gun and start cutting a little too early, definitely. So I think, it's definitely made life, managing canola, I think, a little easier without having to worry about swathing and some of the effects that swaths, can, the wind damage and so on. And I would say, on a side note, I think we've seen less hail damage when we do get a hailstorm on some pod shatter. So, it's kind of has a bunch of good fits.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you know which InVigor varieties you're growing this year?
Yes, I do. Yes. We've been big growers of InVigor Health, so we have the 359. Sorry, I think next year's 358. 359 HPC. It takes the majority of our acres, and then we have a little bit of 233 and some 340.
You mentioned InVigor Health. That's the specialty oil market that you're selling into then.
Yes, we've been big supporters of the specialty oil program with the InVigors, and there's some nice marketing features that also kind of help sway me in that direction.
Okay. You mentioned you have corn to harvest as well. Is there a lot of corn up in the St. Rose area? Because for our audience may not know, this is one of the more northern. You're getting up there in terms of, I would call it almost northwest agricultural Manitoba growing region.
Yeah, we're north of the 51st parallel, just south of our place. So grain corn's been becoming a major part of my rotation. We're in cattle country, so we've found some niche markets, selling to local cattle producers. It fits in a long harvest, kind of managed with some time. Big bonus of that, and we have kind of we live in the tip of the the banana belt. Like we're at the tip, so our heat units, we're still fairly low compared to anyone who's up on the escarpment. So our heat units are fairly high considering the northern location we live in.
So what type of heat unit maturity ratings, what type of varieties would you grow?
So we predominantly grow like a 72-day, some 74-day, depending on the variety. And then there's some newer 69 days that are really showing some promise and not losing yield potential when it comes to, giving up yield for dry down. So, there's some interesting things happening in grain corn, and that's been kind of the thing we've been hearing over the last 10 years is grain corn is, the next thing after soybeans, kind of pushed through the West. So, that's where we sit on that.
So one of the themes of the show today and of this event that InVigor is putting on is kind of the overlap, the similarities we see between baseball and farming. And one thing we've talked about when it comes to baseball is baseball players are always looking to improve. They're always looking to try new things and experiment maybe with their swing or with the throw, or coaches or managers are tinkering with the lineup all the time. What about from your farm's perspective in terms of something new that you're trying or looking forward to trying? Is there anything that comes top of mind right now, Rob?
We've focused in the last 5 years, a lot of it has been on our corn production. Implementing a planter into our farm, doing some canola with planting to plant at lower populations. I kind of feel like I'm at that stage where we're kind of just, sticking with what we know these days. I don't know. I'm not that old, but I feel like I've kind of settled into my career that I'm sticking to things I know and trying to just tweak those little things to see if we can, peak out some production things. But there's nothing really that sticks out, per line.
But fine tuning, and I think there's also something to be said about external risks, and maybe it's not the time to take new risks on the farm if things are like when you do your overall risk assessment on your farm and your business planning and that type of thing. Okay, we have something figured out here. Let's fine tune this and go with that. Yeah,
that's exactly it. I think there's always things we look to do. There's how can we fix the 5%? Close up some gaps along the way, and I think that's kind of where I am in my career these days. Is that we're just looking to maximize productivity and maximize profits where we can.
You mentioned that 5%. There's actually an article on Real Agriculture that I worked on years ago where we talked about that 5% rule that we've heard about at farm meetings. Danny Kleinfelder, I believe, was one of the proponents of that rule, improving things by 5% on a year. And when you look at baseball, one of the analogies that was made was a 5% increase in batting average for a baseball player takes them from a middling kind of player to a Hall of Famer. If you have success 3 out of 10 times over your baseball career, you're often in the Hall of Fame at the end of it. And farming has a lot of similarities there too.
I would say the same thing, Kelvin, that we show our risks. We have a lot of risks in Mother Nature, and I always say, sometimes, if we break even 5 out of 10 years and we win a few, it's to minimize the big losses, right? And so, we've struggled over the last 5 years with some production issues just due to weather. But man, when things click, it sure makes a difference, and we just focus on those things and try to work on that for sure.
All right. Final question then, Rob, that we're asking everybody on the show today, and that is when you're at the ballpark, whether it's here in Winnipeg at the Goldeyes Stadium or back home in St. Rose watching one of the local teams play, what's your go-to ballpark food or snack? What's the favorite for Rob?
Well, I like a good burger and, some cold beer.
There you go.
So those are the two things I'm looking forward to when I step into the park today. But I like to experiment with food. So I haven't been to this ballpark yet, so I'm curious to see what their options are. But definitely a cold brew and maybe a burger.
I will always go for a small town canteen burger at the hockey rink or the Ball Diamond. But this ballpark here, Rob, I will tell you, it has all kinds of variety, all kinds of different things that you don't always, and that's one of the things the Goldeyes are known for having top-notch cuisine and fan experience. And so, it's you'll have a lot of options when you get inside.
Great,
here.
I'm looking forward to it, Kelvin.
Well, I won't take any more of your time. Then I see some of your family has gathered now. They are waiting for you to go in, and so I won't get between you and whatever you choose from the menu and that cold beer, Rob. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Kelvin.
That's Rob Brunel, farmer from St. Rose, Manitoba, joining us here on RealAg Radio as part of the InVigor Series, 2023 InVigor Series, brought to you by BASF Canada. We'll be back with more RealAg Radio right here on Rural Radio right after this.
This year might bankrupt us. If I lose the farm, I'm letting down generations of my family. Why am I the only one who can't handle it? Maybe the farm would be better off without me. Hello?
Hey, I was just thinking about you and thought I'd say hi. I know it's been a hard season, and I wanted to see how you're holding up.
We might feel alone, but we're all in this together. Visit domore.ag for mental health supports tailored for the agriculture community.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and InVigor Hybrid Canola.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. Our final segment here on location is part of the InVigor Series brought to you by BASF Canada. We are at the Winnipeg Goldeyes Baseball Stadium in downtown Winnipeg, and pleased to be joined now by another Manitoba farmer. There are quite a few farmers and retailers that I've seen walking into the ballpark here as warm-ups are getting underway. There's certainly excitement in the audience as the band is playing, things are rocking, and pleased to be joined with on the headset now by Les Wiebe. Les, you farm in the Portage, Prairie, Manitoba area?
We do, yes.
So tell us a bit about your farm and your background, where you're coming from.
So we're grain and potato producers west of Portage in the Bagot area, and we grow wheat, barley, corn, canola, edible beans, and potatoes.
Okay, so you've got that Red River Valley rotation, or maybe do you consider yourself being in the valley? You've got that southern Manitoba rotation.
Yes.
Yeah. How is the crop shaping up as harvest is getting underway here?
So we just did a little bit last weekend of wheat, and the yield is good, and I'm optimistic that the rest of the crops are going to also be pretty good this year.
Okay.
Despite how dry it's been.
Yeah, so how dry has it been in your area in terms of relative to normal?
We had about 3 to 4 inches in total. Often we get 4 to 5 times that much.
Okay, and you're on, that'd be fairly sandy soil then, right?
That's right.
So, and it's still, so is that thanks to moisture last fall, or where did the crop find that?
Yeah, I think there's been some residual moisture that was around.
Are you, I'm assuming you have some irrigated acres as well?
We do.
Okay.
Some potatoes are irrigated.
And that's saved for potatoes, there's not other production under the irrigation?
That's correct.
Okay. Where are things at with the potato crop right now?
Crop is senescing nicely. Potatoes are starting to bulk.
Okay.
And, within the next 3 weeks, we hope to start harvest.
Okay. What type of potatoes would those be then?
We have a lot of russet potatoes and also some processing for ourselves.
Okay. So where do they go? They go to McCain's down the road then?
Simplot down the road
Simplot.
And some into the table market, and we do some processing for salad company.
Oh, okay. So we've seen new processing capacity built here in Manitoba when it comes to potatoes. Are you seeing that increased demand in terms of needing more acres or looking for more production from those companies?
There is. There's more opportunity for potato acres at this point.
Okay. We should also we should talk about canola as well as part of this InVigor broadcast. Where's your canola crop at this point?
So I would say we're still at about 10 days before we desiccate the canola.
Okay.
Yeah, we planted about last week of May. Crop looks really good. The canola, I'm very happy with the stand. It was a tall crop. I'm optimistic it's going to be a good crop, but ours is just a little bit later.
Okay. And a pod shatter trait, you desiccate it, you leave it to combine straight?
Yeah. All the canola we're growing is InVigor, and it's all pod shatter.
Okay. So then, certainly the flexibility. I know the previous farmer we had on last segment, Rob Brunel, commented he may not be at the ballpark on a Saturday night if it wasn't for that pod shatter trait that came around a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right. We would be swathing some canola probably right around now as well.
Okay. So final question then, Les. We're at the ballpark, and what's your go-to ballpark food or snack when you're watching a baseball game? Either back home in Portage or Bagot, or here in Winnipeg at Shaw Park?
Well, it's been several years since we've been here, but I'm going to guess I'll have to go with a hot dog.
A hot dog. That was the first pick we had on the show today, and I think that would be my go-to pick too. And you're right. You can't go wrong with a good hot dog. Onions or no onions?
Oh, onions for sure.
Ketchup?
Yes.
Ketchup, yes. Mustard?
Yes.
Oh, so you're going with all the fixings.
Oh, yeah.
Relish?
If it's
available,
right there,
yeah. Okay. Well, I won't keep you from picking up that hot dog here. Thanks for stopping in to chat with us today, Les.
Oh, you're welcome.
All the best with harvest and the rest of the growing season here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Again, that's Les Wiebe, farmer from the Portage, Manitoba area, joining us here on RealAg Radio. With that, we are just about out of time. On behalf of the entire InVigor team, thanks to all the farmers and producers that came out for this, the third and final game in the InVigor 2023 series. And on behalf of the entire RealAg team, including our producer Jason Strovey, I'm Kelvin Heppner. Take care.